to another great episode of the Bourbon Road with your hosts, Jim and Brian, where they talk bourbon and, of course, drink bourbon. Grab yourself a pour, kick back, and enjoy another trip down the Bourbon Road.
We're very excited to have Blanton'sBourbonShop.com as a new sponsor for the Bourbon Road podcast. In fact, this podcast is brought to you by Blanton's Bourbon Shop. Blanton'sBourbonShop.com is the only official merchandiser for Blanton's, the original single barrel. Looking for a unique gift? Blanton's Bourbon Shop has got you covered. Blanton'sBourbonShop.com is your home for all Blanton's gifts. You know, friends, it's never too early to start planning your trip to the Bourbon Trail for 2023. We hope you'll join the Bourbon Road crew as we pull out all the stops this year at Bourbon on the Banks. So mark your calendars for October 6th and 7th, and we'll plan on seeing you in Frankfort, Kentucky. Be sure to listen in during the halftime break for all the details on Bourbon on the Banks. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Road podcast. I'm your host, Jim Shannon. With me today, out on the patio, is Brian Hyatt. How are you doing, Brian?
Doing great.
We're actually at your place today.
That's right. Sitting on the back porch. May hear some people swimming behind us.
Got the birds chirping.
That's right.
You got the smoker going. We just had a little bit of your smoked bacon. Whew. That goes good with bourbon.
It goes great with bourbon.
Yeah. So today we've got a show for everybody that I've kind of been looking forward to a little bit. I think this was kind of your idea, but when you walk into the big box liquor stores now, and for us that would be Total Wine, Liquor Barn. When we walk into those stores now, we see this growing collection of single barrel selections, and it's getting big. In fact, they used to just be a couple on the end of the aisle. Then they would spatter them through the center walkway a little bit. Sometimes they'd put them up by the front door. And now they've got a barrel select wall that is just full of them. And I actually thought when I was picking up today's bottles, I'm going to count these just so I can say on the show how many there are. And I got to like 30, and I said, you know what? I'm not gonna do this, because I somewhere in the middle I lost count, or I forgot where I was, and I was going to go back and start again. So anyway, yeah, you can hear the kids.
Yeah.
They're having a blast out there.
They're waiting until 2:00 to get started.
So we have 3 single barrel selects today, and I mean, there were bottles from every distillery imaginable. The big guys, the small guys, some we haven't heard of. But I chose to go with 3 well-known brands. So today we're going to have Wild Turkey's Russell's Reserve Single Barrel.
Ready for that.
Which is something that, I'm ready for that too. They were I was going to get a Four Roses, but they were sold out of the Four Roses Single Barrel Selects.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. They did have some single barrels there, but not the ones that were selections. Mm-hmm. So. And then after this one, we're going to have a little bit of Maker's Mark. We've got a special Maker's Mark there, and that's their own sort of stave selection. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to end up the day with a Knob Creek barrel select. So pretty exciting show, tasting through these, talking about single barrels. We'll talk a little bit about the barrel picks we're doing and Bourbon on the Banks, but I think it's going to be a great show.
I'm excited.
All right. Well, let's get to this whiskey. So what we have in our glass right now is a Russell's Reserve Private Barrel Selection. This is a single barrel. It is, it says 9 years, but it was distilled and dumped. It was dumped on 1/12/23. So January 12th of this year it was dumped, but it was distilled and put in the barrel in April of 2013. So it's just a few months shy of 10 years old. So nice, well-aged bourbon there. This is Camp Nelson A warehouse bourbon. It was on floor 4. Yeah, this is a big favorite of mine. So I'm kind of looking forward to these. Can be all over the place. So I always love getting my hands on a Camp Nelson bottle.
Oh yeah.
Tyrone bottles are good too. So it doesn't matter, but they're all good. But I particularly love the Camp Nelsons. So what do you say we check it out?
Let's do it.
All right.
Cheers.
Oh, by the way, I didn't say the proof on this. It's 110 proof. They all are. And, wow. Looking forward to it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of toffee on that, like English toffee. Kind of a nice fruity note there, a little bit of floral fruity note. I want to say just a tad bit of like citrus.
I mean, there's no mistaking where this came from.
Yeah.
As soon as you get your first little sniff on it there, you know exactly.
It's got that something, Wild Turkey whiskeys have that something that's identifiable. And there are a couple whiskey brands that have that, right? I mean, if you drink bourbon long enough, you'll start to be able to pick out, the distillery's keynotes just a little bit. But you can get fooled sometimes. But a couple of them that don't fool you. Wild Turkey's one of them, and Willet's another.
That's right.
Very, very difficult to get fooled by Willet, right? All right. Yeah, I love the nose on this. It's kind of got that nice departure from the sweetness as you get that citrus note on it, and but it's always that toffee and a little bit of a kind of a caramel honey note on it.
Right.
The oak is just right there.
The oak is very, very forward.
You get that that sort of rickhouse oak, that well-aged oak to it. I think all the young oak's gone, obviously, at this point.
Oh yeah.
All that early corn sweetness has disappeared probably 4 years ago. Man, I'm getting like a jam, like a raisin jam or something. Just
Yeah, I get that. I get the raisin.
yeah, probably a plum jam, right? Is that what it is? Probably. I don't think you'd have a raisin jam. That's kind of a weird thing, but
I'm always amazed, and I know we've talked about this many times, that how Wild Turkey, people just kind of look down on it some, and I feel like that's changing to a certain degree. When you think about 101, and this Russell's is just it's awesome.
yeah,
It's
you
awesome.
can't go wrong with it. It's always a great barrel pick to go on too. So if you ever get a chance to go on a barrel pick at Wild Turkey and go through that whole process there, it's just probably one of my favorite barrel pick experiences. You just feel like you're going back in time. Once you get in that rickhouse, you just feel like you're going back in time, and if Eddie's leading it, and the last pick I was on there, Eddie led the pick, and it's just they just do it right, and there's no limit to the number of barrels they'll put in front of you. So this actually was a $97.99 bottle.
Okay.
So, in general with barrel picks, I would say you will typically see about a 10% premium on them, above, above what a normal bottle would cost.
Right.
That's just what they do. It costs them a little bit more to do it, a little bit more to deal with it, and plus it's kind of a unique thing. It's a premium item, and they're going to charge a premium price for it, so you're going to pay a little bit more. So this was just shy of $100. I have bought these bottles anywhere between 60 and 100, depending on where you get them at. Always happy when I get one. I'm ready to taste it. What about you?
I'm ready.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. We can just stop now. Actually, that's not fair to makers and Knob Creek. But
Wow.
man, that is so good.
It's so good.
This has a little bit more kind of the back end bite on it.
Yep.
Obviously, this is a higher rye bourbon, and the bite on the back end's a little bit strong on it. It's got a little bit of fire, a little bit drying on the back too. What do you think?
I think so. I wonder what our bacon did to us before we started this. Maybe taking us down a little bit of a different path.
I didn't even think about it. Why don't you tell everybody what you did to your bacon?
So I bought some smoked bacon and just dropped a little brown sugar on it and a very small amount of my barbecue rub that I make.
Okay. Then you smoked it at what?
Around 275.
Okay. And how long does it take to make that?
It depends on where I put it on the smoker, but I can speed it up and have it done in about 15, 20 minutes. But sometimes I like to put it as far away from the heat as I can and let it take a little while to get done.
Now, that was kind of a thick sliced bacon too.
It is. Yeah. Very thick.
And so the smoke's getting all the way through it. Mm-hmm. Plus it was already a smoked bacon.
That's right.
Wow. That was really good. I would imagine it definitely affected our palate.
I think so.
So is that fair to Russell's? I don't know. I'm not talking so much about the sweetness of it, am I?
That's right. There's definitely brown sugar in there, but you also had a hint of cayenne pepper. So a little heat that may bring the heat up on our palate when we're tasting through this.
All right. Well, I'm going to hit it for a second sip and give it a fair shot here. Very viscous, not super sweet up front. It could still be a little bit of that bacon playing on me. But I'm definitely getting the citrus and the toffee's there on the palate as well. I smelled it. It was very prevalent on the nose. Now it's very prevalent on the palate for me. You know, the caramel and vanilla notes here are not like prominent notes for me. It's more the sort of that fruitiness that I get, that aromatic fruit. I'm going to say, fig or plum or something more dark like that.
Oh yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. And as soon as you said the raisin or the plum a minute ago on the nose, I feel like that's what I'm getting. That psychological thing's got me now, where I heard it, so that's what I'm getting.
It's kind of funny when you sip on it, though. I take a sip of it, and I get that initial lack of sweetness, but I get that nice wash of that aromatic plum and fig or whatever it is, and then it kind of departs, and out comes the citrusy, a little bit on the back end. So I love it. It's got a pretty daggone long finish.
It does.
Sticks around for a very long time. It's not dripping down the sides and causing my glands to salivate like some whiskeys do. But it is treating the back of my palate to a nice finish. And it's a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of black pepper.
I get a little cinnamon, for sure. Well, I'll say I feel like this was a great pick. And it's your money on this one, not mine, but I think it's money well spent.
Well, we can thank our sponsors.
That's right.
Blanton's Bourbon Shop for funding this episode. Thank you, Blanton's Bourbon Shop, but your money is well spent.
Yes.
So, So we've picked up these 3 bottles. A lot of times we get bottles sent to us. A lot of times we're gifted bottles and we're able to review them. And sometimes we have this plan in mind for a show we want to do, and we just have to go buy the bottles.
That's right.
Well, these are 3 bottles that I'm glad to put the money down for. They are getting more and more expensive every year, though.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you bought a bottle of this Russell's Reserve Single Barrel?
Wow. I mean, it hasn't been in 2023. I bet it was the earlier part of last year.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you what I paid for it then, but I've only got a couple bottles of it. So, it had to be last year early.
So have you been to the distillery lately? I think you did go down there to meet Bo not too long ago, right?
Yeah. I actually had a meeting with the client, and I had one of my one of my employees with me, and I said, let's just take a turn off here and go down and see if Bo's working. And of course he was there, and we talked for a little while and hung out and all that good stuff. It was right after all the big windstorms that came through Kentucky. But it's always so fun just to go there. The history, you know, my family is from Anderson County, Lawrenceburg, and I love being in that area regardless of what I'm doing. But Wild Turkey's a special place.
Yeah, it is a very special place. Now, they were still in the temporary shop, right? Down off the parking lot there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that, I guess, years ago, that gift shop, that used to be the gift shop many, many years ago, I guess. And then, of course, they moved to the gift shop up at the main distillery. And then now that's under construction again.
Right.
Renovation, I should say. And they've had to move back down to that little original shop, which is very quaint, though.
It is. They had just finished the new porch and everything there. So everything was somewhat updated when you walked up to it. And it is very quaint. Very cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. All right, any final thoughts on this one before we move on? We're getting a little bit of breeze here, and you know the kids are playing in the pool in the backyard behind us. We got the leaves rustling, the birds are in the trees. It's an absolute gorgeous afternoon.
It's
here.
beautiful.
And Brian, you live kind of in East Louisville.
I do.
About halfway between where I live out in Simpsonville and downtown Louisville. So how long does it take you to get down to Whiskey Row?
Oh, well, it's different for me because I take River Road regardless. I never jump on the interstate or 71 or anything. So it takes me a little bit longer, 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
Depending on what day it is.
And the interstate's not much faster, 15 to 20, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that nice, comfortable ride. I have to do it every day for work anyway, but it's relaxing to have the water over to your side and just take your time, 35, 45 miles an hour most time. So,
I'm sitting here just analyzing this this finish on this whiskey, and I do have one final note. Do you remember the candy Good and Plenty?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a hard candy coated licorice, right? I kind of just got that on that back end on that finish. It just a little bit of that Good and Plenty. Good and Plenty had two colors, didn't it?
It did.
What were they? Pink and white, or?
They were, I believe it was pink and white.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if the two flavors had any difference between them, but that definitely got that little bit of a licorice pop on the back end on that finish just sitting there.
I always love your candy references because I have a sweet tooth and I eat way too much candy. And so every time you say one, I'm like, yeah.
So is your glass empty yet? It's close.
It's close. Very, very close.
So I'm going back to nose the empty glass, and this is always a real treat. When your glass is empty, go back and nose it because you're going to get so much more of the aroma when you do that.
After a long day, and let's say I have a bourbon, on the weekend at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll set my glass to the side. I won't wash it, and I'll give it another nose before I go to bed. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. All right, Brian. So what's in our next glass?
So, Jim, we have a Maker's Mark Private Selection. This is the Fireside Spice. So these are finished in 10 selected oak staves.
And that's kind of what Makers does, right? They've got the stave bill, or whatever you want to call it, where you can put up to 10 staves and you can mix and match them. You can do all the same one, or you can mix different ones.
Yeah.
So this is a Total Wine pick. So the Total Wine people put this one together. And what's the combination?
So we have 2 baked American Pure. We've got a roasted French. I'm going to use my Kentucky accent on this one. Médiant, yes. And then there is toasted French spice. So the way that they have it is 2 baked pure, American Pure, and then the 4 roasted French Médiant, and the 4 toasted French spice.
So there's a lot of French oak in this one.
That's right.
Awesome.
And so, just to let everybody know, the other two options that they would have had to include in this barrel would have been the seared French and then the Maker's Mark 46.
Got it.
All right, so we're sitting at 108.4. And this looks like it was dumped July 2022.
Okay. So the last bourbon we had was the Russell's Reserve. And Russell's uses the wild turkey mash bill that is they call it a high rye mash bill, but it's around 12%. This is a wheated bourbon. So any spice we get out of this one's going to be coming out of the barrel.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I'm a big wheated fan.
I know you are. You like the sweeter whiskeys.
I do.
I expect this one to be a damn sight sweeter than the last one we had because it seemed more absent of sweetness.
That's right.
Maybe we blamed that a little bit on your bacon. I don't know. But, that's a pretty daggone impressive whiskey we just had. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Now, this one is named Fireside Spice.
Okay.
So we'll see.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wow. The nose on that is a little bit of like a little bit of maple.
Definitely maple. There's no doubt it's sweeter.
Yeah, a lot sweeter, but I'm getting a little sizzle on my nose.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of that ethanol burn, right?
I think that's where the Fireside comes in.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting kind of the real smoky part of it, and that's kind of what I expected when you said Fireside. There'd be a little bit of smoke there. I mean, I am getting some charred barrel aspect from it, but I just get this super sweet caramel, cinnamon.
So the toasted French spice is probably playing into this quite a bit.
And there were 4 of those, right?
There were 4.
Okay, so almost half the stave bill on this is the spicy French oak. All right, well, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my goodness, now that one is very, very sweet, syrupy, very viscous.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, I agree, going back second time for getting a little another nose on this. More ethanol for sure.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more ethanol. And, this is very silky, very silky. So that they've really the viscosity is kind of high on this one. The legs on the glass are very slow moving. But, it kind of, when you take a nose on it, you kind of expect there's going to be a wash of sweetness on this one. But when it first hits the front of your tongue, it's like, oh yeah, definitely a sweet bourbon. But it's got a nice balance because it does. That spice on the back is just sort of leveling everything out.
I mean, there's definitely more spice than I expected. It's in the name, but I just didn't think it was going to be as much as it is. So,
it's kind of funny because I'm getting a little bit of like a Red Man tobacco note on the back end of it. So the sweet chewing tobacco, right?
Oh yeah.
Does have a good amount of spice on it. For a wheated whiskey, this is a very spicy whiskey. I'm not picking up any citrus to speak of. Getting a little bit of that almondy, nutty note.
I agree with that. There's not a whole lot of citrus, if any, that comes out for me. I think we just had a belly flop behind us.
Sounded like it. Yeah. The finish on this is just kind of medium. It's a good pleasant finish, so I really like it. But it's not sticking around. I keep having to pull my glass up and take another sip. That Russell's kind of just lingered and lingered and lingered and then changed. It was like, oh wow.
I mean, I really like this, from the standpoint of, like what you just said, I feel like I keep going back to it. And I feel like I get a little, just It changes a little bit for me, but I feel like I need to go and get a little bit more. This is one that bottle would probably go pretty quick for me.
Yeah, we'd be in trouble though.
Oh yeah.
If we were to do it out here on the porch. All right. Well, Brian, we're going to keep sipping on this during the break. We'll come back after the break, and we'll still be drinking on this, Makers. We may have a second pour of it.
All right.
And we'll talk to you when we get back. Gift? Blanton's Bourbon Shop has got you covered. All of their handcrafted wood products are made in their in-house wood shop with authentic bourbon barrels. Specializing in barrel-aged potent treats, they use Blanton's barrels to age their own maple syrup, honey, and coffee. Find the most unique gift ideas for your golf lover, cigar connoisseur, avid coffee drinker, and Blanton's fan. Want to win an authentic Blanton's Barrelhead? Make sure you sign up for the giveaway on the homepage of their website. BlantonsBourbonShop.com is your home for all Blanton's gifts. As we mentioned earlier in the show, we hope you'll join us this fall on October 6th and 7th for Bourbon on the Banks. The festival itself is from 2 to 6 p.m. on October the 7th, and you can pick those tickets up at bourbononthebanks.org for $65. They also have an early access ticket for $75. It'll get you in an hour early and definitely get you access to some special pours. But if you always like that VIP access, this year they're bringing in the VIP access tickets. We'll give you access to their VIP tent and all the great things that go along with that for $175. Be sure to check out bourbononthebanks.org. They'll get all the details on this year's event. All right, so we're back and comfortably sitting on your patio.
Oh,
still, you just filled up a little bit more of the Makers in your glass. Got the sounds of summer behind us. The kids in the pool. Listeners, I hope it doesn't bother you, but that is the sound of summer.
That is.
And sometimes when you sit out on your patio, you're not lucky enough to have total silence.
No, it was silent all day until we started.
Well, that's all right. That's kind of what it's all about, right? We're out under a couple of big shade trees. It's very cool out today. I think the temperature's in the mid-70s.
It is.
But we're in the shade, so it's probably closer to 70 here.
I thought about going to the pool today, and then I said, it is end of May. It has not been hot. I don't think I even want to stick my toe in the cold water.
That's the problem here. It may be warm enough to sit by the pool, but it's not warm enough to get into it yet.
Unless you have a heated pool. That changes
Melody's
things.
at the pool today, but I'm sure they're just laying out drinking something really good.
Pool drinks are good.
All right, so final thoughts on this Makers. I think the finish on it, I'm not going to say it's disappointing. I guess I was hoping, maybe that's what happens when you have a bourbon with a very lengthy, enjoyable finish, and you follow it with a bourbon that has a very enjoyable finish as well, but it's not.
It's just short.
It's just shorter, yeah. But I think I like the nose on this one better. And you probably enjoy the palate because it's so sweet and viscous.
I do. But I think the nose stands out the most to me on this one. More than the palate, the finish, anything else. The nose is very, very pleasant.
Well, this is a winner. I would take the Makers Barrel Select from just about any stave combination I've ever had has been pretty darn good. I think they designed that in such a way that no matter what direction you go with it, it's going to be good. It's just going to taste different.
That's right.
I love the variety you get out of them. They had two of them there I could have chosen from. One was a little bit more on the sweeter side. One was more on the spicy side, so I grabbed the spicier one.
Yeah.
All right, I want to go back for the nose at the end here. Yeah, I just love the texture of that bourbon. That is a very, very good, nice, silky, smooth example of, what a non-chill filtered barrel strength bourbon is supposed to taste like. I shouldn't say taste though, right? I should say what it should feel like on your palate.
That's right.
Yeah, the texture. Awesome. We need to get down there again. It's been a while since we were at Makers. All right, so next on our list, we have a Knob Creek. And I have to say that it's been a minute since we've had Knob Creek on the show. I think the last time that we had a Knob Creek on the show would have been about a year ago. I'm wondering if we even had it when Freddie came on. I think not. I don't think we had a Knob Creek when he was on the show last. But nevertheless, Knob Creek has made many appearances on the Bourbon Road podcast. This, again, is another Total Wine pick. This is single barrel selected bourbon, 120 proof from Knob Creek. This bourbon was barreled on October 1st of 2013, and it was selected in January of 2023. So this both of those were January selections. The Russell's was a January selection, so was the Knob Creek. So this one is about 9.5 years old, 120 proof. Knob Creek is always a wonderful example of a very well-aged oaky bourbon. So I'm kind of looking forward to this. Let's check it out.
Let's see how this nose goes after the last one.
Yeah, it will be different.
Very different.
Very different. Yeah. So this one is more subtle, less sweetness, more oak, char, more kind of burnt marshmallow.
I agree. Burnt marshmallow is...
But I am getting like a cinnamon, almost like a
red hot.
Like a cinnamon red hot. Yeah, like an atomic fireball or
atomic fireball. That's better than a red hot. Yeah.
But this is all the nose. We haven't touched it to our tongue yet. So cheers.
And we can tell we're moving up a couple notches here in proof.
Yeah, this is the biggest proof yet. Oh, by the way, the price on this one. This is the Knob Creek 120 proof single barrel select, $62.99. So at $63, this is the lowest cost bourbon that we're drinking today.
All right.
At the highest proof. Cheers.
Cheers.
Very, very oak forward, very much burnt marshmallows. Creme brulee a little bit.
It just doesn't punch like I thought it was going to punch moving up to 120.
Yeah, it doesn't have that high proof punch. You're exactly right. It does have the oaky notes, and it does kind of have the spice to go with it, but not the alcohol punch. But that's a good thing, right?
Oh, it's good. Very good. For 120 proof, it's a pretty easy drink.
This is more leathery. This is definitely more leathery than anything we've had yet. This is Booker-esque.
It is. Yeah.
It definitely reminds me of a Booker's. Well, it should remind me of a Booker's, but this definitely brings Booker's to mind.
I'll say this has been my favorite nose out of the three so far.
Has it? Yeah, it's just got that kind of deep charred oak nose to it. A little bit of campfire smoke, but just kind of burnt sugar. That's why I said creme brulee. That's why I said burnt marshmallow. Yeah. I'm not getting the chocolate notes with it. Are you?
I don't pick up chocolate,
but I'm definitely getting kind of the leather.
Mm-hmm. I think the burnt sugar really. That's probably why I like it so much.
It can be a little drying, or I don't know, drying a little. little bit of pucker on the back end from the tannins. But I think it's appropriate for this amount of wood effect to get those tannins along with it, so that's all right. I don't get the wonderful silkiness that I got from the makers. It does have a good thickness to it, but it doesn't have that silky smooth.
It is a little more drying for me. I think drying is.
Yeah.
I think that's accurate.
Oh, the wind is blowing. It's actually a breezy. This is a perfect porch day.
It is. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, I just hope these noises we're getting in the background from the wind and from the birds and from the kids playing in the pool. I hope it's not off-putting to people as they're listening to this. I hope they enjoy the sounds of summer of this episode.
Well, we talked a little bit about some summer bourbons the other day, didn't we? And
yeah.
So I think we're definitely moving rapidly towards that.
I think we need
grilling out, watermelon, all the good stuff that comes along with it.
I think we need to pick out some refreshing summer bourbons or rye that we recommend for the hot days of summer.
I agree. So I'll tell you, typically when I go to the pool, the bartender there, we've known each other for a while, and we hang out, we have a good time.
Yeah.
And sometimes Leslie says, you need to quit hanging out at the bar, come over and hang out with us a little bit. But I have a good time conversating with everybody over there. And they don't have a great selection, so my summer bourbon has just been Maker's Mark because it's such a limited selection that we get to choose from. And he has nice, healthy pours.
Well, there you go. You can't go wrong with just the standard Maker's Mark. It's good stuff.
That's right.
I have to say, though, I definitely approve of Maker's 46 over that.
Oh.
And then this particular one is just really
Very good.
So, yeah.
Very good.
I think the best thing that Makers ever did, and I know we're drinking Knob Creek right now, so we shouldn't talk too much about Makers, but that finish is just still sticking with me. Not really, but the idea of that finish is still sticking with me. The best thing they ever did was the Makers 46, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah. I can remember back when they came out with the cask strength the very first time. They had the smaller bottle.
Yeah.
But 46, the first time I had 46, I was in North Carolina visiting a friend. I said, hey, try this. I took a bottle of Pappy and some other things with me, and he said, give this a shot. It's like, wow, it's really good.
Yeah, the Maker's 46 cast strength is something altogether.
Oh,
right?
goodness.
Different. Yeah, it's really good. All right, so let's quit talking about Makers. We're drinking Knob Creek. This is some good stuff. And you know what? It's today's value pour at $62, $62.99. So let's go back over these prices again, just so everybody knows. So the first thing we drank today was the Russell's Reserve Single Barrel Select. And that was a total wine pick at $97.99. And then second up was the Maker's Mark Fireside Spice Barrel Select, which was $85.99. And now we're drinking the Knob Creek 120 proof single barrel select. All three total wine picks. This one's at $62.99. So you're always going to pay, we talked about this earlier, always going to pay a little bit more for barrel pick bottles. They just cost more. That's just the way it works. But you get that little something different that's not on the shelf, and it's always a nice surprise when you get it. I kind of get excited when I get a barrel pick bottle that I haven't opened yet.
Yeah, and like you said, there's so many more of them. I can remember getting excited anytime I would just see one normally out, and now they're everywhere. But I can think back 10 years ago, or so, and walk in and you see one and you get really excited and you're like, oh, I gotta have that. But I think it's always interesting, when Tyler's been on the show, he's had some that he's brought us, and you just never know what you're gonna get. It could be a very high profile bourbon that everybody wants, and it's something that you feel like you gotta have, and there can be a barrel pick and it can be a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
The one of the, not to harp on Blanton's, but it's such a wide range of what you get.
Yeah.
And but I'll say this Knob Creek, for the price point, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, this is one that if you can get it, you should get it.
Yeah. So if you go to a local liquor store, and I'm sure you have yours, I have mine out in Simpsonville. That's all I have. I don't have any big boxes out there. So you're usually going to walk into the store and find one or two picks on the shelf. That's about all you're going to see at a small place. You go into Total Wine, or you go into Westport Whiskey and Wine. Well, Westport Whiskey and Wine is kind of the example of
that's typically where I go.
Yeah.
To get my barrel picks, as I go over there, and they always do really good. I mean, we had 291 on that, back November, December, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, really good. They kind of got into the barrel pick thing. Chris Zaborowski, who's no longer there, but he was a madman. He picked amazing barrels, and there were always probably 30 picks in the store there, so you could always find something. So he was way ahead of his time. People are starting to pick up on this. Certainly the big boxes are, and my goodness, if you come to Louisville, I would say 3 places to go to find single barrels. Well, obviously the distilleries are going to have them, but if you want to go to a big box store, definitely Total Wine or Liquor Barn. And then if you want to go to a smaller shop that has a great single barrel selection, definitely Westport Whiskey and Wine is at the top of that list.
I mean, they've done a fantastic job since I moved up here, 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah. It's a great place. Not far from here. How far is it for you to get down there and get a bottle?
It's 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
Leslie doesn't like when I drive in that direction.
We've recorded a couple episodes there. We did have Chris on the show at one time.
Okay.
But that's a great place. And it's about time I go back and visit there again. All right, Brian. So we're kind of at the end of things here. We've got this Knob Creek, and what do you think of the finish on this one?
I really do like it. I feel like we've had a very nice selection here with all three, and I like everything that they've presented in their own different ways. And honestly, didn't think that I would like the nose on this one better than Maker's, but I do. I like this nose better than everything else. But the finish, it's pleasing. It's definitely, I feel like, a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's definitely longer than the last one, right?
It sticks around, so
I don't know if it competes with the Russells. That was super long.
Oh, it's fantastic. But yeah, I would say this was my favorite nose. The palate probably goes to Makers for me.
Okay.
And then
overall,
yeah, and I would say the finish probably Russells.
Yeah. So if you had to pick one, what's your pick for today?
Well,
and consider price, because we've got a $97 bottle, an $85 bottle, and a $62 bottle.
That's exactly where I was going to go. If you're looking for the best value, I mean that Knob Creek, but I would probably lean towards the Knob Creek anyway. It's when I'm lining up and I'm looking at what I'm going to purchase, I do always look at price point. I do take that into consideration, and it's a big part of how I choose what I'm going to get. And sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would go Knob Creek, just price point and everything else considered. What about you?
Well, for me, I'm just a nut for Wild Turkey products. I just love them. They always hit that sweet spot for me, and so I'm probably going to lean towards the Russell Single Barrel, even though it's the most pricey one. This will last a very long time for me, because I'll visit it every now and then and have a little pour. If I'm having somebody over and they want to try something special, I'll pour it for them. I think it's something that'll be this particular bottle will be around a while, and we'll bring it to Bourbon on the Banks if I've got any left in it. So I'm going to go with that one. The Makers was amazing texture. I love the nose on it. The Knob Creek was bold and I'm not going to say smoky, bold and oaky, and it did have a kind of a medium finish on it. I liked it a lot too. They all had their thing, but for me, I'm going to pick Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. And just so everybody knows, these 3 bottles, when you add them all up, we're looking at about, with tax, about $260. So if you're going to go pick out 3 good, solid single barrels off the shelf, expect to spend somewhere around $250. Put them on your bar. But you won't be sorry. These aren't ones you're going to sit down and make disappear on your porch one night. These are the ones you're going to sip over time and enjoy. Like I said earlier in the show, Brian, I've really been looking forward to this episode because I'm a single barrel select nut. I mean, I just love them. And we've got some barrel picks that we're going to have in our booth at Bourbon on the Banks.
I'm excited about those.
We need to get back over there and we need to pick these barrels with Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company. Greg has been so kind. He's going to join us in our booth at Bourbon on the Banks, and we're going to have, I think we're going to have a rye and a bourbon pick there. So we're picking the bourbon, he's picking the rye, but
he knows what he's doing with those ryes.
He does. His ryes are fantastic. You know, I took that rye barrel pick home with me from him, and I hate to say it, I'm kind of also embarrassed to say that it didn't last a week. That's terrible. But it was really, really good. He's got some great whiskey in the barrel, so.
He's doing it right. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. Well, the winds are picking up. The kids are quieting down. Birds are gone. But we're getting ready to eat some barbecue.
That's right. I can smell the ribs.
All right. Well, it's been a blast. Where can people find us on social media, Brian?
Well, you can find us everywhere. We're on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and we have our own private members group on Facebook with the Bourbon Roadies, and it's a smaller group, Jim.
Yeah, it's a smaller group, but we keep it that way.
That's right.
Because we trim and prune just like a fine shrub. You know, we make sure that we don't let spammers accumulate. We don't let bottle sellers accumulate. They do get in every now and then, but we do our best to keep control of that. So we keep it a small group, but a very friendly group, and a great group of people that love to drink whiskey, share their bottles, share their stories of what they're drinking, share their pictures, just have a good time. We hope you'll check out the Bourbon Roadies on Facebook. That's our private group. But like Brian said, you know, we're on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. We're putting stuff out on all the social medias. It's at the Bourbon Road. We hope you'll check us out. We're doing an episode every single week on Wednesdays. We'll have a good topic. Like today I think was a really good topic, Brian. It's one that we've been looking forward to doing again. Sometimes we'll have a guest on. Sometimes we'll be in an event or wrap up an event like we did last week. It's always fun. It's always informative. We hope you'll join us every single week. And Brian, what do they have to do to make sure they don't miss a single episode?
Yeah, so you can go to Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere that has a podcast, and you're just going to click that subscribe button. And each time we release an episode, you're going to get notified.
And with that notification, you get that bell notification, you get that text, that whatever comes to you to let you know that, hey, it's time to listen to the Bourbon Road again. You won't miss a single episode. We do love to hear from our listeners, so make sure you reach out to us. You can go to our website, thebourbonroad.com. We've got a contact us page on there where you can fill it out. If you've got an idea for a show, if you've got a distiller in your hometown that's doing it right, if you've got a whiskey you've tasted and you want to let us know your opinion on it, we'd love to hear it. You can also find our swag on there, our t-shirts, hats, Glencairn glasses, all the good stuff is on there. It helps get us down the Bourbon Road.
We have our new Bourbonista shirts that we're very excited about.
Yeah, so the ladies are definitely wearing their Bourbonista shirts everywhere. You've probably already seen them on social media. A lot of our listeners are posting them, and definitely check it out for the ladies. You can always reach out to Brian and I on email. We're at team@thebourbonroad.com. Love to hear from our listeners. But until the next time, we'll see you down
the Bourbon Road.